When you hear the term cozy game, what comes to mind? It might be something like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, or any of the other dozens of farming-based games released over the past 10 years. But is that all there really is to a cozy game? After all, and to be a bit pretentious for a second, the dictionary definition of cozy is as follows: comfortable and snug. I'll be completely honest, I was expecting the definition to be longer when I was writing this intro, but the song remains the same. A cozy game shouldn't be defined by how many crops you can harvest or how many pixelated villagers you can smooch, but by how comfortable the game makes you feel, by how much the game makes you feel like you are at home. And so if you're anything like me, when you think of a cozy game, you think about Monster Hunter. Yes, I truly believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that Monster Hunter is, always has been, and always will be a cozy game series. And this isn't just because it's my favorite game series and has been for years and I love making it fit into boxes that it objectively does not belong in, but also because I feel like Monster Hunter embodies a lot of pillars of what makes a more generally accepted cozy game a cozy game. While the core gameplay loop may differ pretty drastically, the Monster Hunter series and games like Stardew Valley, which I'm going to be using as my primary focus of comparison because I can easily record it, all share a focus on community, a coexistence and collaboration with nature, and comfortable, cozy environments that the player gets to call home. I'm Grayson the Bard, and today I am going to be exploring the cozy world of Monster Hunter, starting with one of the core pillars of Monster Hunter as a series is its emphasis on community. Even as the games have shifted in focus from having you start your journey as a lone hunter of an isolated village eager to prove themselves, to being a member of a more militaristic research expedition, the thematic emphasis on community that you help grow and service has been a constant in almost every single Monster Hunter game. Monster Hunter Wilds, the most recent game in the series, revolves around you helping a child get home to his potentially destroyed village, along the way meeting and helping members of other communities, usually by fighting megafauna, carving up their bits, and then turning them into a cool hat. There's a similar focus on community in games like Stardew Valley, or its predecessor games, the Harvest Moon series. In those games, you frequently take the role of a farmer new to the game's town and are required to grow your relationships with that community by assisting them in whatever way they need, usually by collecting crops or finding specific items they want and giving them to them as gifts. That same cycle happens in Monster Hunter, but instead of helping by delivering crops, you are fighting colossal beasts instead of the growth cycle of strawberries. Both of the series require the player to progress through different stages of gameplay in order to connect with the community that they're involved with. Whether it be through growing more difficult crops and making complicated multi-step crafting recipes in farming simulator games, or by taking on more difficult quests and monsters in Monster Hunter games. With each step in the process, you get to see your relationship with the NPCs grow and change around your actions. The best examples that immediately come to mind for me are from Monster Hunter Wilds' Kanya's Fishing Quest, where you go from being a complete stranger, just another member of the expedition, to being a bona fide fisher fellow with just a few quick reels of the rod. Or, if you are more a fan of old school Monster Hunter, the infamous Eggstraction quest from Monster Hunter 4U, which see your hunter join a secret society of egg smuggling freaks, with each quest the NPCs putting more of their trust in you as they send you out to steal eggs from more and more dangerous monsters. Yes, this is just there as a gameplay mechanic in order to have you do similar quests with progressing levels of difficulty, but it also, on a thematic level, shows the community putting more trust in you, showing that you can be depended on to help these people with what they need. There is that thematic emphasis on community growth and your place in it, in addition to your place in the mechanical gameplay progression. But I think my all-time favorite example of community building in Monster Hunter is unfortunately from a game that I don't think I'm ever going to get to play, the Japanese exclusive Monster Hunter DOS and the building of Jumbo Village. While I've never been able to play Monster Hunter DOS, the premise behind it is always something that I would love to see Monster Hunter explore again. You start with absolutely nothing in DOS, and are assigned to help the village chief develop a barren patch of land into a new and thriving community. Over the course of the game, you take on quests to build up new facilities and entice NPC merchants to set up shop or expand their inventories, all while engaging with the same core Monster Hunter gameplay loop of hunt, craft, and prepare. As you play, you get to see the impact your hunter has on the village and watch as it goes from an empty shell full of possibility to a bustling and thriving community. You get to help it turn from a base camp into a home. And again, going back to that comically short description of cozy from the beginning, what is more comfortable than a home that you build for yourself? No Monster Hunter game has quite scratched that specific itch the same way Monster Hunter DOS has, but that doesn't mean that the other Monster Hunter villages aren't cozy in their own ways. Moga Village from Monster Hunter Trine 3U is a small, isolated island fishing community built on what looks like a series of rafts. There is a sense of closeness and togetherness in this village, and the villagers all welcome the player character as one of their own from the second they step off the boat in the intro cutscene. The caravan from Monster Hunter 4U is a prime example of found family as you and the rest of your group travel across the world trying to solve the game's central mystery, going closer and closer to solving the mystery and to each other each step along the way. And then there's Komura Village, which your player character has an innate connection to, it being your home from your entire life. And throughout the game, you see how tight-knit the community of Komura is, as even in the face of calamity, they have undying trust in each other that they are going to see each other through it. The Rampage mode is rightfully maligned, and I've talked in the past about how I don't like it very much, but something I do appreciate about it is how you get to see the entire community come together to face the onslaught of monsters, not just the named NPC hunters that you have been getting to know throughout the game, but also just nameless villagers who take up arms against a wave of monsters. The Rampage may not hit gameplay-wise, but I do think there is something there thematically. But I'm going to cut myself off here. I'm not going to talk about every single village, or I would be here for hours, and I haven't even talked about the coziness of Monster Hunter's gameplay yet. When you think about the gameplay loop of a game like Stardew Valley, what is it that makes it a cozy game? Is it the repetition, the calming rhythm of harvesting crops, waiting for them to grow, and then using them to complete requests around town or build new tools to explore with? If so, then how is the gameplay loop of Monster Hunter really any different? Replace planting crops with hitting a dragon in the face with a comically large bagpipe, and waiting for crops to grow with staring at the equipment menu for hours, trying to squeeze in just one more point of crit boost into your armor set, and suddenly, Monster Hunter and most farming sim games start to look pretty similar in how they play. And a lot of that similarity boils down to how both games are dependent on routines as a core aspect of their gameplay. One of the most essential parts of a cozy game is the comfort of the routine, a steady, familiar rhythm that you can easily toss yourself into and let the rest of the world fall away. In Stardew Valley, it's the daily tasks of watering your crops and petting your animals and then talking to your favorite villagers. In Monster Hunter, it is the pre-hunt preparation of choosing a quest, eating a meal, picking your best equipment and item set for the job, and then heading out to face a monster you've already fought dozens of times before, not because you have to, but because you want to. You want to master it, you want to refine your approach, or simply enjoy the hunt. There's a very satisfying and almost meditative quality to playing a Monster Hunter game, not quite in the shut your brain off territory, but in a way where you can fall into the rhythm and enjoy that feeling of comfort and familiarity, because you know what to expect when you're logging into a Monster Hunter game. You know that there's not going to be too much change, and there is a lot of comfort in that familiarity. It's not that much different than spending a day in Stardew tending your farm, except instead of paying attention to livestock and crops, you're slapping lizards. I can't possibly count how many times I have come home from a day that did absolutely nothing but kick my ass mentally, physically, and emotionally, only to boot up a Monster Hunter game and melt into the familiar. I could stop thinking about the stress of the day and instead shift gears to something beyond that, like wondering how many times I was going to have to fight a Mizutsune in Generations before it finally decided to drop a damn claw. It's a different kind of problem, sure, but one that I chose to tackle, one that felt manageable, rewarding, and calming. In a sense, Monster Hunter's gameplay loop becomes its own kind of safe, comfortable space, a pocket of the world where you can sit back, relax, and enjoy a nice, soothing grind. The process that you make is tangible and visible, and the only real consequence of failure is getting sent back to camp by an angry bubble fox. And just like in a farming sim, where every day brings a new small task, Monster Hunter gives you a steady, bite-sized drip of goals. You're always working towards something tangible, crafting a new weapon, upgrading a new piece of armor, or just grinding for a specific rare material drop. And it's those small goals that keep you coming back to Monster Hunter, encouraging you to play just a little bit more each day, that one more hunt mentality, usually said just before spending another couple hours chipping away at monsters. The game gently nudges you along with these small milestones that slowly add up over time. Each hunt, each mining run, each moment spent perfecting your build brings you closer to completing whatever item it is you have on your checklist. It's a very similar feeling to seeing your crop sprout in Stardew Valley or paying off a loan in Animal Crossing. And while yes, at the end of the day, this is simply a way for Capcom to keep players playing the game so that they continue to make money off of the cosmetic microtransactions or off of getting players invested in the series so that they buy the next game, I choose not to be super cynical about it and feel that this really does create a feeling of comfort and familiarity that a lot of games don't do in the same way, especially when you get to share that with your friends. I have always said that Monster Hunter is best when you are playing multiplayer, when you are playing with people. Even though everything can be done solo, and there is a lot of fun to be had in tackling monsters by yourself, the series has always been designed with multiplayer in mind, and I feel like that extends not only to the gameplay itself, but also to the cozy vibes that the game has. Circling back to those themes of community I talked about earlier, that are present throughout the entire series, the multiplayer in Monster Hunter is always cooperative. A group of players working together to take down a monster, and unless you are a speedrunner trying to get top times on the challenge boards, there's really not a competitive aspect to it. Yeah, you might be hanging out with friends and decide to, do a hunt in tandem and see who can take the monster down the fastest. But even then, that exists outside of the world building and themes of the game itself. You are never working against your fellow hunters in Monster Hunter. You are always working to better the ecosystem or the community that you live in. Collaboration and community are baked into the game's DNA and how it supports multiplayer, and I feel like a part of that has trickled over into the community as a whole. While I am going to preface this by saying that absolutely no community is perfect, and if you've spent any amount of time recently in Monster Hunter spaces, you know that there is a decent amount of toxicity that has wormed its way into the roots, but by and large, and for a very long time, Monster Hunter was and had a reputation of being a very welcoming, very non-toxic community, and I still think it is very much predominantly that, even if there are a few things that slip through the cracks every now and then. A lot of that is, I think, informed by the way that multiplayer is designed in Monster Hunter. It is entirely collaborative, there is no competitive aspect to it, and also just the way that the game is structured and the way the themes of the game are presented. It's resulted in a community that is predominantly friendly and welcoming, a community that is very supportive of new players entering the series. I mean, take a look at HeyJ, who is at present a prominent figure Monster Hunter content creator who, at the start of his Monster Hunter journey, did not like the game. He played the Monster Hunter Rise demo, made a video about it that he bounced off and wasn't planning on buying the game, and was eventually won over in large part due to how welcoming the community was, even though he was critical of the series. This is intrinsically baked into the DNA of Monster Hunter as a series, the feeling of community, the comfort of the gameplay loop, But none of that would really matter if the world itself didn't back up the themes and gameplay, and it's hard to argue that the most comfortable aspect of a Monster Hunter game is anything but the world itself. What you're currently seeing on screen is the intro cutscene for Monster Hunter Freedom on the PSP. And this intro, more than anything else in the series, is what turned me into a lifelong fan when I was 11 years old. In it, we get to see everything that makes the game great, but more importantly to this discussion, we get to see everything that makes the series cozy. We aren't immediately bombarded with high-octane action, but get to simply see a world in motion. A world that our hunters don't command, but coexist with as part of the natural order. When we first see the hunters, it's them preparing for a hunt, engaging in that comforting routine. When we see the hunters engage with a monster, it is collaborative in a way that I think Capcom has been chasing for their gameplay ever since Monster Hunter was first released in 2004, with the hunters not so much wailing on the monster, but working together to lure it into an ambush. Further intro cutscenes in the series all do a very similar thing, showing new aspects of the world, new ways that the community works together, all while introducing players to the world and showcasing not only the actions that the players can expect to engage in, but the lived-in, comfortable, and collaborative world that they get to step into. The world of Monster Hunter has these breathtaking, awe-inspiring natural landscapes that, while initially intimidating, eventually become as easy to navigate as your own home. It has small environmental accents that help flesh out the world and help the maps feel less like RPG zones and more like actual environments that don't stop living when you aren't loaded in. And even in the hub towns, there are all sorts of small details that help you feel like you've stepped into an area with its own culture and history. And to top it all off, in Iceborne, there is a grandma cat who comes out of retirement just to cook hunters the most rib-stickingly delicious, wholesome, and comforting-looking meals in all existence. Do I really need to say more there? This is going to be the shortest section in the video because I really don't need to compare it to any other cozy game. You can just look at it. Monster Hunter has never been just about the action. It is a game that has comfort baked into its DNA through the world itself, the themes of community, and even the gameplay loop. There's no crops, there's no giving gifts to villagers to make their heart gauges go up, and there's no grandpas giving you the keys to an old farm as they lay dying in a fucked up bed. But no series has ever made me feel as cozy or as at home as Monster Hunter has. And I hope if this video has done anything for you, it's made you think about expanding your definition of what makes games cozy. Maybe for you, it is a platformer from your childhood, or even a shooter game that you stayed up until the wee hours of morning playing with your friends when you were a kid. Comfort is different for everybody. Coziness is different for everybody, but I think when you look at Monster Hunter, it is very hard to deny that Capcom wasn't trying to make something that felt cozy. Thank you all so much for watching. I could have gone on even longer with this video, but I didn't want it to go on too long. I prefer this kinda, sub 30-minute video mark. There may come a day where you will see a multi-hour video essay from me, but today is not that day. I love hearing what people think about the video and what people think about the concept especially. Do you agree with me? Do you think Monster Hunter is a cozy game series? Please leave a comment letting me know what you think. If you want to touch on anything I didn't mention in the video, feel free to. I want to know what you think, and I always do my best to try and respond to as many comments as I can, so feel free to talk. We are creeping ever closer to that goal of 1,000 YouTube subscribly-doos, so if you want to see this video get out to as many people as you can in the Monster Hunter community, please do that old-fashioned thingama, the like, comment, and subscribe if you want to, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. I'm not your dad. But thank you all again so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you next time.